Welcome to South Harmon.
Wednesday night AMA, we are live and in the building. Adam, man, summertime, you rocking a zip up? Look at you, man.
It's cold down in this basement, buddy. It's cold down in this basement.
I'm freezing in my own basement right now. That AC's blowing on me, and I got some diamond-plated nips.
I love
you know what I'm saying?
100%. The vent is literally right above my head, so it is cold down here, but we are hot and ready, Mike, to talk some Dynasty startups in the middle of the dog days, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
What else do we have to talk about at this point?
I mean, we could just pick some random blurb on Twitter and, make a big deal out of it for no reason.
We could. Actually, that seems to be what more often than not you get these days, to be honest, right?
Like I could change my Twitter handle to like something that rhymes with Belite Drafters. Just make shit up if you want. I can do that.
Listen, and while we're early too, Mike, right? We're early. And we got people here already, right? Ready to go.
Day.
We got Koopa stuck at work. Listen, we had to go a little bit early here because Mike, I want to make sure we get him out of here at a reasonable hour tonight. It's important, right? So, Mike, with that being said, what do you think, buddy? You want to just go ahead and get right into startup season?
Let's go, man. Startup season. Let's talk some players. Our guys. 2025 edition.
Well, why I'm up here twice is a little odd, but hey, we'll just pretend that was supposed to happen,
Double trouble.
There he is.
Oh, we back.
We're back. And Mike, this is the current startup ADP. So let's go ahead and just take a brief peek, if you will, at the data. I mean, we're going to start in round 5 just for the sake of, guys that we're going to put an our guy tag on, or, what we think are values that make sense to try to press the button on. I mean, me and you telling you guys that we like in the first 2-3 rounds. I mean,
here's an interesting
what's the
one,
point,
man.
right?
I use a lot of Dynasty Data Lab. All right, I've never enjoyed the hexagons or whatever those are. Octagons.
Really? Well,
how many sides we got? 6.
We got their hex. But here, I'll tell you. How about box?
Gotcha.
Would you prefer? Do you prefer the box?
I prefer the box. Yeah, Adam, I'm a big fan of the box.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Say less, my boy. For that, I can take care of you. I'll get you the box.
Like Roddy Rich, all right?
Buddy, if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Roddy Rich.
Oh, what a start. Oh, yes, I do prefer the box for anybody wondering out there. It's kind of my jam.
That's fair. Well, listen, we'll give you the box it is, okay? So with the box here, Mike, let's just go ahead and we'll start off with our first one in the 5th round, early in the 5th round.
Who's the first contender?
Mike and I are very, I would say relative to consensus, are becoming even more higher, if you will, on quarterbacks in Superflex than most. But let's just start with J.J. McCarthy, huh? I mean,
there we go, man.
502 is going to be the first one. But here's the craziest part to me. Quarterback 18.
That is it.
The thing about that, where 502, like you could say maybe that makes sense. To me, the fact that he's going at quarterback 18, he's being drafted essentially, in my opinion, as if he was not going to play well this year. That's kind of where you're able to draft him if he didn't perform very well, honestly.
The longer we get in this terrible cycle of off-season, summertime doldrums with like nothing going on, the more I find out that J.J. McCarthy is highly polarizing amongst not just the fantasy community, but the NFL community as a whole. I mean, people fucking hate this guy for what? Like, what did he do to you? I mean, Adam, you as an Ohio State fan probably have a decent reason to not like him, right? Like, you
Sure.
don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like the guys coming out of the Wolverine jerseys, but, I mean, he beat us. The team that he was on basically beat us every single time. So there's that, too.
Well, let's just look at some of the facts. All right, around J.J. McCarthy, and why I think QB 18 is disrespectful as all hell. All right, So we'll put the cart before the horse here. I'll say, like, I fully anticipate this guy being somewhere around QB1 range, not QB1 overall, but top 12 quarterback at the end of the year for a few reasons. Right, we've seen Nick Mullins put up games in this offense. We've seen Josh Dobbs on his 3rd team put up games in this offense. We've seen Sam Darnold, who saw ghosts forever and had 3 games with Carolina, That was his entire career up to this point. Be a QB1 in this offense. J.J. McCarthy, from a fantasy football standpoint, is a better player than every single one of those. And he also does one thing for fantasy football quarterbacks that we really enjoy, that really helps boost your fantasy performance, and that's run with the football. He is an athletic quarterback who is mobile and will take off and run. Now, is he Lamar Jackson or Jane Daniels? No, not many people are. Is he going to score as many touchdowns on the ground as Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts? No. But can he be Bo Nix? Can he be Drake May? Yeah, he sure can. The only difference between those guys is he's got Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hockenson, whatever the hell Jordan Mason is, Jordan Addison, if he can avoid being suspended. It's a pretty good cast of weapons, plus one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the entire league in Kevin O'Connell. I mean, there's a handful of guys ahead of him that you can make the case outside of the very obvious ones, right? Like, I'm not taking him in the first fucking round, okay? I'm not taking him in the second round, but
right.
Adam, this is a dude like in the third round of your 12-team Superflex Dynasty startups right now. You should be considering somewhere in the third, if not the early fourth. And here we are at the 502. This is the average draft position, meaning that in half of these drafts, he goes later than this. Like, that's how averages work.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucking absurd to me. It's absurd to me. And I don't understand why people just really can't get on board. He's got the draft capital. He's got the talent. Something that doesn't really matter for fantasy, but he's a winner everywhere that he's gone. Every single place that he's gone. That kind of lends you to long-term job security, too. It really does if he comes into the league and wins. Similar to, you want to talk about a guy who just wins. Maybe I don't like him. Starting to come around on him, but Brock Purdy won himself into a giant fucking contract. So I mean, what's the deal? Do you got any like good logical explanation on the JJ McCarthy hate? Is it just because we didn't see him last year, or is he just like ugly? We don't like him. He looks funny. I don't know what it is.
I think there's a combination of things that are putting it here. If I'm gonna try to assess why it would be here, right? I think he was already polarizing and going last of the quarterbacks that weren't Nix and Penix, going just clean and healthy last year, right? In the startups. Then after he got hurt, Mike, I think there might be some misconceptions about the narratives of his injury, and but he did miss all of his rookie season coming off of the injury, and then also people were already he was already polarizing because of the fact that he didn't throw the ball a lot, whether that was scheme or that he can't. It doesn't really matter. People were very much unsure. So I think the biggest thing is just this to me seems like someone that people in the community for the most part are very the uncertainty is what I think would be the word I would use. Here's the thing though about it. I could understand that if he was more like quarterback 14, you're taking him in the range of more Kyler, Jordan Love, Baker type thing, right? As you see up here. Mm-hmm. He's going after Ward. He's going after Brock Purdy. He's going after T-Law.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, it really is. So I guess the reason I think it's such a value, and you and I were in lockstep on this, isn't because I'm super, super bullish on the prospect of J.J. McCarthy. I am I do like him relative to just the pack. But when you're at this spot, you're drafting at, I think, what was probably the floor, unless he is a colossal failure. Because 2023, in the numbers I was doing with the Malik Neighbors comparison, right? Just comparing Neighbors to Jefferson to Chase, going through all these different years. And you look at a Kevin O'Connell offense, Mike, 2023, when Kirk Cousins goes down, right? The Vikings led the NFL in passing yards. 4,700 yards passing. They led the NFL with Cousins tearing his Achilles, right? So to me, you kind of have an opportunity, I think, here where while his value relative to all the players on the board maybe you don't love, relative to the quarterbacks, Mike, is just insane to me personally. No matter where you were at on the prospect of McCarthy personally.
It's fucking crazy to me. This time last year, he was quarterback 19 at the 503 in startup ADP. So he moved up one spot each time. Congratulations. QB 18 for reference last year at this time was Drake May. That one worked out all right for you.
Well, Jay, listen, here's the thing. For algorithmic reasons, it is now inserted after we have our discussion ahead of time, and we're getting into questions. So I know you probably already know that, but I appreciate the super chat, and I hope you stick around to hear it because we will play it.
We don't pussyfoot around the box.
No,
is what he's trying to say.
We don't. Now, Mike, I don't know if you had anything else on McCarthy before we get to our next person. So
Nope. That was the first one that stuck out to me just because we play in Superflex 12-team leagues, quarterbacks run the world, and I'm talking about taking a guy in the 5th round that I think has QB1 upside, like in realistic upside. I mean, that's not being too hot takey, I don't think. And with a 5th round like price tag, like fuck yeah, man! Like I could get a QB1 in the 5th round. Sign me the fuck up, right? The risk is already like, okay, I'm probably gonna miss on any of these other 5th rounders or later. So I already know when I get to the 5th round kind of what I'm dealing with. But I like the potential upside. There's not a lot of guys that we're gonna find that have that kind of upside at the quarterback position that you're gonna get that cheap. I mean, there's a couple. There's a couple, but there's not too many. Like he is definitely kicking off that tier. And then plus from the dynasty aspect, young, long term, man. Guys getting at least next 2-3 years as the opportunity to be the Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback. So
I think the last thing I was going to say, team building wise, if you are in this spot where you take a early quarterback, round 1 or round 2, this is a very nice pair. If quarterbacks are falling, right, like ADP, to make sure you secure, while still getting some players, right, a very nice super flex option with your high-end quarterback to make hopefully people now have to reach for more quarterbacks later. And if you are somebody that waits, Mike, like if you told me that you were able to wait, even if it was only your first 3 rounds and get really nice skill players, and J.J. McCarthy's your quarterback 1, I think with the right 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, that's a beautiful start. Yeah. So I think either way, McCarthy fits team building wise, regardless of which way you go. So to me, that's why. We're also starting to heat up here, Mike. We're going to stay in the 5th round. And I'll be honest, it is cold down here. But as we heat up, man, Rome Odunze's there. And I think I'm ready to take this jacket off, buddy. Let's go.
Look at the presentation value. Adam stripping.
Listen, Mike said he wants the box. I'm going to get him as close as I can over here, okay? I want you to see all of it.
I feel like I'm not going to enjoy your box.
You sure? What about the Rome box? How about the Rome Odunze box? You like that one at 506?
Poor Rome. What did he do to deserve this? What did he do, this poor man?
Coop was right. Maybe we should have stayed the hexagons.
At the 506, man, this again, we weren't even trying. When we said we wanted to do like our guys' values, like I just started at the top, right, and just started looking down. It just so happens that you and I happen to find a lot of guys at the 5th round or later. That wasn't our intention.
No. Well, and honestly, most of the players we both agreed on. This was a perfect topic for AMA. I'm getting ready to do a startup video for BDGE too. So the just going over the data, and we were in lockstep, I believe, on 3 of the first 5 names you said. Like that was just at first glance, we're in lockstep. Mike, I'm curious though with Rome for you at 506, not necessarily if it's the best value out there, but if you think this is a value, if this is a target that you're interested at this price, or just where you're at personally. This is obviously my guy, and I'll get to that too. I think you're muted. Hope it's not me.
It was that box talk. There's a lot of guys that are interesting around this range for wide receivers. But again, kind of like J.J. McCarthy, if I start to put them in, what's their maximum upside? Not even maximum upside, but like what's their realistic upside? Like what can I see where if we got to finish at the end of the year and you go, wow, like this was a wide receiver 1, or this guy finished, wide receiver 14 and put up this amount of warp, would I not be completely shocked by? And I'm like, yep, I can definitely see that. Rome Odunze is one of the few in this range that kind of stands out to it, right? Like as much as I'm an Eagles fan and I love Devontae Smith, as long as A.J. Brown's there and it's a run-first offense, like dude's capped. Like the dude's capped. Terry McLaurin, we saw what he did last year, and I love the guy to death. But then we're talking dynasty startup. It's like you got to make the choice between instant production and then long-term potential. When you start doing there, it's like I'm taking Rome Odunze every single time over Terry McLaurin. And then everybody else just kind of feels like a pretty good, like, might be a decent wide receiver 2 on my team. Like if they were top 15, top 16, that's a good season. I got it out of them. But they're not as sexy. You don't see the sex appeal out of them that you do a Rome Odunze. So if Rome Odunze has a similar range of outcomes to the rest of these guys, but if you tell me if they all hit this range of outcomes, this similar range of outcomes, who next year are people going to be falling over themselves for? It's Rome Odunze by 75 bus links. Like, he's gaping the field. Speaking of boxes, it's the opposite of a box, in case you didn't know.
Love what you just did. I also love what Koopa just did.
What we got?
Well, he's saying, what do I do when Mike and Adam say get Rome Odunze, but Zachariason is selling Rome in Dynasty? Well, here's the thing. I would be okay selling Rome depending on the return. And I would be okay not saying he's my guy if he wasn't going in the 5th. And as I scrolled up a little bit there, just I wanted you to think about it from this standpoint, right? JSN is going at wide receiver 12, okay? And he didn't – I don't think he obviously doesn't quite have the draft capital of Rome, right? Going into his sophomore year, he had a worse rookie season, believe it or not. And at this point, for him, they still had DK, and they'd actually weirdly just brought back like Lockett on an extension. So there was a lot more uncertainty around him. Now, with Rome, they draft Luther Burden, but right now he's missing time, which is, I think, valuable. I'm not going to knock Luther Burden too much, but speaking of X and speaking of all these clips that you see, Ben Johnson didn't seem to be too happy about him missing some time right now early. It's weird. Not
usually.
But here's the thing. With Rome, to me, Mike, if I look at the JSN corollary, what wasn't baked in there was an offensive change. Like right now, everybody is so in on this Ben Johnson thing. Like there's no one out there that I've seen at least that says, oh, it's not going to go well with Ben Johnson. Like, he's not going to help this offense take a step forward. So if you're in the mindset and belief that the Chicago Bears, with a much improved offensive line, with improved skill players and, more experience now, with a great play caller and Ben Johnson, if you think there's an offensive step forward here, there's another Bear I'm going to get to, but I think inherently the guys that could be discounted, I want to grab and levitate towards anyway. Then you tell me, Mike, if Rome Odunze just finishes, I'd say roughly in the top 20, but closer to the top 15 even, he is going to pass JSN. I would argue he gets into the Drake London range because for Drake London, we had to wait a couple years to see the big leap for him. If he's a top 20 receiver this year, to your point, his production will be probably in the neighborhood, if not better, than guys like Terry or Devontae Smith or Zay Flowers that are going near him. But he is going to balloon. The bet for me with Rome is his market is likely to balloon, and you can't really say that for anybody going outside of like the early part of the 4th round or the 3rd round at the receiver position. So to me, Rome Odunze is one of these guys where you could just play the market and trade out, even if if you decide to contend. But if he ends up giving you a chance to have your cake and eat it too, speaking to the box, buddy, I mean, you're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it.
It definitely feels a lot like the JSN situation from last year, which was there's so many similarities. Which same offense coordinator JSN's rookie year that Rome Odunze had to suffer through for a handful of games until they finally got rid of his ass. Same fucking difficulties that you had with 2 other established wide receivers, and then how's he fit in? Same thing with little nicks and injuries that kind of slow him out, but also the same couple games that you saw that you went, all right, this motherfucker can play. Like, he can really play. He can be a difference maker. And then you see how much the situation changed for JSN into his 2nd year, and all of a sudden now he's right back into the conversation of Brian Thomas Jr. or JSN, right? Like, Nico Collins or JSN. Like, who do you guys want out of these two? You can see that rise for Rome Odunze just like we saw for JSN. And the JSN thing, you and I both this time last year were like, why do we already hate this guy? And for me, the only answer I can really come up with, Adam, and I can only say this, is because of Brian Thomas Jr., because of Justin Jefferson, because of Jamar Chase. We have gotten so ridiculously fucking spoiled with rookie wide receivers coming in and just smashing in year 1. And we think every fucking one of them needs to. Every single one of them has to do it. Otherwise, you're shit. Sometimes it takes a year. Like, these guys are rookies. There's a reason that if you look at rookie warp, like, they're usually not that good as a whole, historically. It takes time for some of these guys. But
right.
anymore in Dynasty, like, fuck, man, there's no patience at the quarterback position. There's no patience at the wide receiver position. The running backs, I'll give you, if you're a rookie running back and you have a massive opportunity, which most of these guys do, and then you face plant, like, okay, we're done with you. But wide receivers, there's a lot more nuance to the position. There's a lot more targets that need to be earned, a lot more trust, a lot more situational packages that they need to be put in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about a running back who gets 15 touches and doesn't do shit with it. He had 15 opportunities. A wide receiver might not see 15 opportunities. A rookie wide receiver might not see 15 opportunities in 3 games worth, Adam. Like, we're talking about guys who get 3-4 targets, sometimes a game tops, right? They have to earn that where they become target hogs and target monsters. We got to show a little bit more patience with it. And that's why I think at this cost for them, like, I'm very okay showing that patience. I really am, because the payoff is much, 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 much higher.
Right, and I think what is also kind of interesting to me, right, like the expectations for a Marvin Harrison Jr., who you see over 2 rounds ahead, right, was extremely high. Now, I'm not saying he has a DJ Moore there, but we expected Marv to crush and eat right away. There was already what I guess I'm having a little bit of trouble with Rome at the final, like, the cherry on top, so to speak. Like, we already knew when they had Keenan Allen, they had DJ Moore, before we knew the offense was going to be terrible, Mike. Like, we already kind of knew this was likely to be a play where maybe in the second half he breaks out, and probably more of a sophomore breakout. So now it's like everything breaks right after a terrible season with the coach switch of Ben Johnson, the offensive line, like everything is breaking right, yet patience is out the window still. Like, when we already knew that's kind of what was probably in the most likely range of outcomes. Also, nobody ate last year in this offense. Despite hella targets to DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, nobody ate. Nobody was a 1,000-yard receiver. Nobody was particularly great. So I think there's big things in store for the offense as a whole. But if you believe in that, that's why Rome Odunze is the 5th round guy for us. But, Mike, let's get into the 7th, because this is
Let's jump down a couple rounds.
The 6th round, it's not that there aren't some players that I wouldn't be willing to take there, but the next really crazy value that in the startups I still have, and honestly I'm getting ready to do an auction league with Barry, he's going to be somebody I'm going after if it makes sense for the auction budget and if he's actually going in this range, because I'd like to wait on the tight end position. But if you told me that I think I have a chance to get, an outside shot at tight end 1 in round 7, well, buddy, I mean, T.J. Hockenson. I mean,
is it an outside shot at tight end 1? Like, outside?
When I say that, I mean that it's not like Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, right? But it's
for most people,
right? As far as the community's consensus on it, but this is a guy that has already shown us the ability to be a tight end 1. We know he's talented. He's coming off of, he'll be a full year removed now from this injury. Mm-hmm. And if you, once again, like kind of pairings-wise, right, if you think this offense is going to continue to just dominate, we've seen him do it in this offense. And the fact that he's not going to be able to get coverage that you can really focus on a guy like Trey McBride, right? You can't do that with Justin Jefferson and with Jordan Addison, or they're going to kill you. I really, really like him in this round. Mike, if you told me it was in the 5th, I'm probably having a little bit more of a pause because I think that's more appropriate. But you get to 704, what's happening here? Honestly, like, for him or George Kittle, sure, if you want to really bet on the production of George Kittle in that offense, fine, but I think they're similar bets, and George Kittle's obviously older. But he's going around ahead.
And George Kittle also sometimes falls into this trap when San Francisco has offensive line problems, because George Kittle is such a good blocker. They use him, like, sparingly. Some games, it's like, what the fuck? Why is he not out there running routes? He's staying in the block the whole fucking time. This is disgusting. So like if I got a tiebreaker between the two, one for Dynasty, it's going to be T.J. Hockenson, the other Iowa tight end, because we just shit excellence here at the University of Iowa when it comes to the tight end position. Other
Tight
than
end
Noah
you?
Fant, we don't claim him.
You see it? Yeah. Noah Fant down at tight end 40, other than him.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than him. And obviously for Dynasty, you're going to go the age with T.J. Hockenson. But how quickly people forget after last year recovering from an ACL, which took him a little bit of time to get back going. Now, like you said, full year removed from it. But just 2 years ago, with what we talked about with J.J. McCarthy, a hodgepodge of quarterbacks, right? Kirk Cousins started off amazing. Then we get the Achilles tear. Then it's Nick Mullins. And then it's Josh Dobbs. And then it was whoever the fuck that other guy was they tried to use for a game and got hurt. Kid out of BYU. No one gave a shit. All right? T.J. Hockenson just went out there and flat out fucking dominated every single time. That was a tight end 2, or depending on if you looked at WARP in your league, might have been tight end 1. Right? We've already seen him do it. Very similar numbers to what Trey McBride and Brock Bowers have done, or George Kittle has done. Right? Like we've already seen it. There's 4 tight ends I realistically think could be tight end 1 overall. Obviously, Mr. Brock Bowers, reigning champ. Welcome in. George Kittle, you mentioned him. Trey McBride, we know what he can do. This guy's the cheapest. And the cheapest by a round over George Kittle and by multiple rounds over those other guys. So as a guy, too, who doesn't really give a shit about tight ends and loves to wait on them, you tell me I can get him in the 7th round, Adam? The 7th fucking round? Yeah. In the couple startups that I've done already this year, T.J. Hockenson has been the target because you just sit there and you go, I could take like a wide receiver 3 type or like an RB2 type or like my 4th quarterback, or I could take somebody who could be number 1 overall at his entire fucking position. And that's the tight end warp that matters to me. Like if I'm going to go for it, shit, give me value and give me that elite production in that offense. I don't know what's not to like about T.J. Hockenson. And I'll add in the fact, his quarterback, who we just talked about, is the guy who made Colston Loveland a household fucking name because he fed the shit out of Colston Loveland.
There you go. Yep.
So what do you think he's going to do with T.J. Hockenson? He's going to feed him the fucking football, especially in his de facto rookie year. You know them rookie quarterbacks, they love that tight end position. You got a pretty good one to throw to. So T.J. Hockenson, for me, credible value in the 7th round.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, let me ask you right now, at cost, where he's at, where do you think, kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier, I'm just curious where you're at if you had to try to pulse it. Where do you think he would have to move forward to? How many spots, how many rounds before you're like, okay, he's not on my – I still would like him, but he's not on my R guys list, right? He's not a, like, this is ridiculous value. Where do you think that is for you roughly?
Probably mid-5th. Mid-5th.
That's where I'm at too.
If he goes ahead of Tyler Warren, you know, like that's kind of where I start to go. If he's starting to go around right like the Sam Laporta range, like I'm definitely good, man. I'll let you guys make another great Iowa tight end, by the way. We'll just plug that one. I'm good, man. I really don't want to make those bets. Like, I'm good. Unless it's one of these stupid, crazy start 2 tight ends with, 2.25 tight end premium, whatever the fuck it is. You know, we've got some crazy ones like that. That shit still makes sense to do it. Go for it. But he's got to move up like a round and a half at least, Adam, before I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes here a little bit before Before, like, that's where he leaves my guy. He's always going to be my guy because he's an Iowa guy. But it's going to take a little bit before I'm not in on T.J. Hockenson. I think you go round 6-ish. Like, I'm still like, yeah, all right, fuck it. Why not? I'll be that guy who takes tight end here.
Well, the reason the Kittle one is so interesting, right? I want to. You asked me about JJ, like why is this happening type of thing. If I tried to give you the same type of a thing with TJ Hockenson, I think, Mike, there's a couple things with him that, to me, even though Dynasty is so weird because we do play for the long game, and I think in general people are getting sharper and smarter about playing for the long game and things that can cause real disruption to your long-term success if you're trying to contend even. The problem with him and a lot of players, I think, is even in this dynasty market that's getting sharper, Mike, it's such a recency bias game still. And I think the fact that like, you didn't see T.J. Hockenson have any dominant games last year. And one of the biggest things to remember, you talked about he's coming off the injury. Look at the snap shares. He really was never even ramped up to where he used to be as far as snap shares go. If you look and total in the entire his entire body of work, which is starting in week 9 going through week 18, right? That's half the season. Like, his snap share is 61% last year, right, for those weeks. If you look, he only cracks over 70% snap share one time last year. This is a guy that's routinely, if you look at the years prior, high 70s, low 80s, because you're looking at a guy like, Tucker Kraft, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers. Those guys are in the 85% snap share range. I don't know that it's necessarily snap share that that's not probably the reason people are down as a community, but I think because of that snap share, you didn't see these blow-up games from him last year. So I think people are a little more cool on the name and think that he's not still a very talented player. Pair that, Mike, now with George Kittle going around ahead. George Kittle's 31. Going to be 32 in October. Mike, T.J. Hockenson's 27.
Right. So, T.J. Hockenson, that stat discrepancy that you talk about with the snap share, one of the greatest things I think I've seen for a stat discrepancy. So, 44th amongst tight ends in snap share last.
Right.
44th.
Wait, I was scrolling. I'm on lineups.com scrolling here.
Number 1 in target rate, though. Number 1
For sure.
in target rate.
For sure.
The guy was on the field. They wanted to target him. They just eased
He's
him
only
back
on the
in.
field because we're going to get it to 87,
We're throwing to 87. We're drawing this shit up. The target rate is absolutely fucking absurd when you look at the snap rate right next to it. So what the fuck? Yeah. Pretty brutal ACL injury that he had. Worked his way back from it. And then good for him, too, against the team that, or in the playoffs where he hurt the ACL the year before. 19 fantasy points just in a standard PPR.
There you go.
Even with Sam Darnold being dog shit and losing him the fucking playoff game, didn't matter. T.J. Hockenson went out and was like, "Yeah, I'm back, boys. I'm back."
And I just wanted to make the preface here. We're gonna get to several other people here, but when it gets to this, Mike, when we're talking about these three in particular, before we hit to the next, down the chain as we continue to go down this startup ADP, these three to me all have the potential of putting up very good points, very usable points in production, plus are going to, I think, have – T.J. Hockenson's not going to ever balloon back up because he's 27, but I think these guys all have J.J. McCarthy, Rome Odunze, T.J. Hockenson, while producing, while potentially being very nice difference makers for you, legitimate, value ascension that's very hard to also have while you're getting production. You talked about a guy like Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin. Like, name a lot of players in this, rounds 5 to 7, 8. Yes, everybody here is still trying to find someone that they can plug and play on a consistent basis that they feel like is a starter that they can rely on. These guys give you that, but they also give you what most of the players in this round don't, which is if they are reliable, you're going to almost assuredly have like a balloon as far as their value is going to go up while they're producing. That's hard to do in Dynasty. Right.
You're getting a nice value bump. If T.J. Hockenson's everything that we say he is, right, and he comes back and he's, let's just say, tight end 2 on the season, even at 27 or whatever the fuck it is.
Like, if he's tight end 2 on the season, he's going way up. He's
going in the 3rd round next year. Book it.
Here's what he will pass Laporta.
Yes.
Who, for the record, at the moment, right? Let's give a little
4th round, 403.
404, 403. He's continuing to go down, but still, yes, I'm with you. I agree with you on that. So there's T.J. Hockenson. Mike, let's go ahead. We're going to take a little bit of a, dive here. So there's people in the 8th, there's people in the 9th, but Mike, after this T.J. Hockenson value, I think there is a cluster here where I think we both agree and know that the running back values have increased from where they were last year, right? Running backs as a whole stayed pretty healthy, and they had a very good season for fantasy teams. So you're seeing a lot of these players go higher. But if you do have either a hero RB or you do decide to go 0 RB, if I get to this range, the 10th and 11th, like the early 11th and the 10th round, Mike, this is a spot where I'm making sure, and there's a few names that I want to get to, that I want to make sure I'm leaving with one of them. I have my preferences, but I prefer to make sure I'm leaving it with at least one of these guys because you won't necessarily know in yours where they're going to go. Let's go ahead and just start off with the old, the crusty, but for whatever reason, he's not going to die. James Conner.
He will not go away. I did see somebody hyping up Trey Benson again. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Good for them. No thanks. No thanks on Trey Benson, man. James Conner until he's in the ground, man. That's the dude. That's the dude. And you hit on it. I did this strategy and I made a video on it last year about how I just didn't touch running backs or tight ends until round 10 and how many of those teams I absolutely loved, especially because I ended up with James Connors. I ended up with Alvin Kamara's. I ended up with Derrick Henry's.
There were so many good ones in that like 8
Aaron Jones
range.
got me. Right. Yeah, Aaron Jones got me some production too. Like they were fantastic. And while you're right, running back values have risen. There's still a cluster here, starting with James Conner, where you go, fuck, I just go right back to the well and do the same shit all over again, right? Like I could just, I go right back and just pluck 3 or 4 of these guys if I get them, great. And the payoff has been massive when you hit these guys. Like think about like the discount you got on Joe Mixon last year. I mean, that was a guy hovering around 8, 9, 10. And it kind of depended on what kind of league you were drafting in or when you did your startup. But there was times you're getting Joe Mixon in the 10th. And I was like, nah, I'm good on Joe Mixon. Like, we're good. But at 10th round prices, I was fucking all in. Give me all the Joe Mixon.
We're only waiting so long. Cluster. We're only going to wait so long. Yeah. Yep. The thing about, like, when I'm looking at it, and the reason I'm particularly talking about the 10th and the early 11th here, when you get to the names that are going around there, right, you're looking at, unless you really need to get your super flex or your third quarterback, you got a Geno Smith out there or a Matthew Stafford. I think in a lot of leagues I'm drafting in, those guys don't actually end up making it, though, to 10th and 11th round personally. But that's a different discussion if you want to go that route. Outside of that, you are still looking at some people like a Khalil Shakir in this range, right, that you might be able to rely on, Jacoby Myers. But you're getting much further down the board as far as, a sure thing. And now, James Conner, for a lot of people, I'm sure, is not a sure thing, and he's getting older. I get all that. But that's why, for me, when you look at it, relative to the running backs, when you get past this 11th round range, Mike, you're talking about the Trey Bensons. You're talking about, Bashaw Tutin, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams. You're getting to the point where the usage isn't even certain, let alone is the player any good still anymore, right? So
yeah. So
that's why this spot to me is so crucial to make sure I'm locking up these, especially if I haven't drafted a lot of running backs earlier.
How many of these guys down here are locked into a 60% snap share? How many of these guys?
James, 10th round and later?
Yeah.
Not that many, honestly. There's a few. There's a few, but not that many.
Is Zach Charbonnet? No.
I mean, when Kenneth Walker's not playing, yeah.
I love him, but is Tyrone Tracy locked into 60% snap share?
No.
With Cam Scatterbo and
certainly not. Certainly not locked into that. I mean, I'm not saying he couldn't. These guys could end up, Mike, to your point. These guys could end up having 60% or higher.
Trey Benson,
we can't guarantee it. I mean,
no. Tajay
he's definitely
Spears,
he's definitely not locked in. No.
Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Tank Bigsby, Jaden Blue, Ramondre Stevenson, Braylon out. No.
People will tell you that about Jaden Blue, but I'm not saying he can't take over the running back 1 role, but 60% lock is not true about that.
Let's look at guys that are higher, right? Isaiah Pacheco, locked into 60%?
I mean, someone who's bullish is going to tell you, yeah, but honestly, he's probably not locked into that.
Cam Scatterbo.
Well, we talked about Tyrone Tracy, so it's just the other side of that, right?
David Montgomery.
I mean, something happened to number 0? Because no.
RJ Harvey.
I mean, people probably would have said yes until Dobbins. I don't think he's locked into 60. It could happen, but I don't think it's locked.
That's all I'm saying, man. When I look at James Conner, I go, the floor is 60. The floor is 60. And
yeah.
How many years has it been where we've written James Conner off? I know I've done it for multiple years. And all he's done is, 17 points per game, 15 points per game, 16 points per game. He just continues to get opportunities and continues to deliver fantasy production, and you're getting him in the 10th round. And he's one of the only guys in this range where you go, dude's getting 60% of these touches as long as he's healthy.
That I think is the point, though, where when I'm in this range, there's surely some risk that comes with Connor at this age he's at, right? We've seen him be hurt before, and we're obviously knowing he's getting to this clipping point. But there's a lot of players in this range that I'm drafting that don't give me a locked and loaded, surefire, this is a great pick you can't miss. But if it hits, James Conner I've already seen multiple times. If he continues to, I don't even want to say be a pain in the side of Trey Benson, although that's what people are touting at this point. Like he's just, not the way backup last year. That's the reason James Conner still makes sense. If you bet on this and you're wrong, Mike, and this is finally the time that he goes away, yes, you will lose a ton of value in Dynasty. But the shot was sure worth it when you're getting to the 10th round or later, right?
Old ass crusty James Conner too. How many games did he miss last year?
Gosh. Did he miss any? He might have missed. I was going to say I didn't think he missed any. I was going to say he might have missed 0. but I thought it was 0. Okay.
Zero. Not too bad for Mr. Old Steady here. So yeah, I love James Conner here at the 10th round. Like perfect. If this is the first time I take a running back in a startup, we're doing all right. Now let me just get 1 or 2 more of these guys in this range.
Right, and if for whatever reason in your startup, right, if somebody listened to this or listened to someone else and James Conner happens to be gone, Mike, the next one and in the same range, I kind of have these guys in a tier in startups, but 10:03, DeAndre Swift. At this point, he's obviously as hated as he's probably nearly ever been in Dynasty. He's seemingly hated for a long time, and I get it. But, Mike, if this offensive line is taking a huge step forward, I was going to be in on DeAndre Swift, I think more like the 11th or 12th. That was what my mindset was, thinking when all this news around the draft was they're going to draft a running back. Like that. Yeah. That's where I was planning to take him maybe 2 rounds later when they drafted their guy as a insurance policy, plus he'll get some, usage there. Then they don't do that. And then the first wave's already hit. That's the crazy part. Like the other narratives that were still floating around where, a guy like J.K. Dobbins is going to come in. They're going to grab him.
Nick Chubb. Yeah, I heard that one too.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what I'm saying. Those guys would have been like, all right, maybe the narrative. They still have done nothing. They have done absolutely nothing. Again, with this Bears offense, to me, this guy, if we look at him in Philadelphia, his best year as far as a running back, I'm not saying this offensive line is now Philly's line, okay? But I do think if you look at DeAndre Swift when he's had a good line, that's the only time he's had a good line, honestly. All the other times he's had terrible lines. So if this offensive line is improved, this team is going to be in scoring positions, and you're betting on the Bears to have a good year, like DeAndre Swift is just way late at 28th running back overall. And I'm still betting on him at this point just in a 1-year window, frankly.
Yeah, and we just talked about snap share. Last year, 67%, quiet 67%. The most frustrating thing about having DeAndre Swift last year, right, besides the Bears.
That running back, that getting to the goal line and get him pulled out of here for Roshan, right?
Every single fucking time, man. It was so infuriating. But I'm with you, even when there was the allure of them, like my home run would have been draft Caleb Johnson.
Sure.
Even if they would have taken a Caleb Johnson. The allure of still drafting DeAndre Swift in the 11th or 12th or 13th round, kind of like you talked about, was, listen, he's a great compliment back at worst, right? Like he can be my Chicago Bears Jaylen Warren, right? But I don't got to pay what used to be Jaylen Warren prices, right? I don't got to dip into the 9th round. I can get him 3-4 rounds later. That was the allure of it. And then you come out of the draft cycle and it's like they didn't do shit. And his price didn't go up that much. Like nobody really went, oh, all they really have is Roshan Johnson still. Like they still didn't bring anybody else in. No real competition unless you're a big believer in Kyle Monangai. Like if you are, cool. Like good luck with that. Like you have fun. I would imagine Ben Johnson knows DeAndre Swift, right? And he knew what he had, and he was comfortable passing on running backs because he's like, at the worst case, if I don't get the exact guy that I want at the running back position, I know what I have in DeAndre Swift. He's probably going to use him in the same way, right? Like they're screaming from the mountaintops that DeAndre Swift's going to get usage and quite a bit of it, and there's no real competition to him. I don't really understand why he's still down here. Like this is a guy who should probably be going in the 8th round. To be completely frank.
Let me talk to Pello because he said he was here for me. He says you don't like him, although I know that's not true. I know you love to fuck with him and his Tyler Warren stuff.
Yeah.
But Here's the thing, Pello. He says Philly O-line was kind of good. They were very good, and that was the best rushing year he's had. Now, you could obviously look at what he did versus what Barkley did. I mean, no one's telling you the guy's Saquon, but he had a very good year in Philly. Now, here's the one thing. Detroit O-line was kind of good. Mike, let me give you the numbers. I've already done the research on this, so pretty easy here for me. So in 2023, obviously with Philly, we're going to remove that because we know how great the O-line was. But I'm going to give you the effective blocking rating that they gave him in his career, the years that he was playing. So 2020 in Detroit, they were 59th. He had the 59th best offensive line rating in front of him when he was carrying the football. How's that for good? 2021, 64th. It got worse going into that year where we were really excited for him. 2022 was the only time Detroit was a good offensive line, and this is, I think, the reason why he still stays down here. Remember before the draft, the narrative was Ben Johnson, when he first took over as like OC, didn't get along with DeAndre Swift and they didn't mesh, right? Mm-hmm. And this was the 2022 season was when Jamal Williams had that crazy year, right? And he took all the snap share and basically a ton of the rushes that year. DeAndre Swift was playing on literally like 40% of the snaps. He was being used completely as a change of pace. That was the only time the Detroit offensive line was good. He had the 12th best in the NFL run block rating when he was getting the football. But go to 2024 last year, Mike, again down to 39th. So when he's been the primary back, like he's going to be this year, 39th, 64th, and 59th. That's the type of offensive line play that he's been looking at. We're talking about a situation where there's no one else realistically that should be taking a bunch of the primary touches from him, and this is probably a opportunity. He's going to be inside the top 15 roughly as far as run block rating in front of him when he has the football. So when we've seen that in Philly, he could absolutely have a very good season this year. And then you already talked about the point where if they do end up using him in the red zone, oh my gosh, this could be a crazy value. But even if they don't do that, he could still be very valuable at the 10th round, RB28 we're drafting him.
Yeah, and the Bears went out and they did address offensive line through free agency. I mean, Joe Thuney is a hell of an interior offensive lineman. They got him, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman is who they added in free agency. And already the Bears last year, like, we would like to make fun of them, but as far as run blocking goes, PFF had them legit middle of the road. Like,
sure,
not terrible, not great, obviously, but they did upgrade a little bit. And their younger offensive linemen that they were excited about, Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, are another year more seasoned, right? And now we're in a Ben Johnson schemed offense. Like, what does that look like? That's a little bit different. Maybe a little bit more cohesion. Maybe some of the success that Detroit had on their offensive line coming from dog shit is in part to Ben Johnson, not just the players.
Was just going to be my point, right? They did have some players that took a big step forward, but Frank Ragnow, by the way, retiring, I think is something that's being missed a lot for Detroit, but they already had him in 2020 and 2021, right? They had a lot of good players still. Part of the reason they had such a good run block rating that year in 2022 was because of him, and I think he's going to do the same thing here. I want to get a super chat. I definitely got to get a super chat up here. Come on. Connor over Swift. Is Jonathan Brooks dead out of the gates? By the way, didn't we say Connor over Swift? Thank you, though.
Yeah, I take James Conner over Swift.
Yeah, well, I'm saying their ADP is neck and neck, but we said Connor, and then if he's not available, I'll take Swift. Is Jonathan Brooks dead out of the gates? I feel for the guy. He's not an asset I'm betting on at all at this point, Mike, in Dynasty, period, frankly.
But I think people are doing you a favor if they give you a third for him. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys, though, like, I obviously root for him, and I would say that I don't necessarily think, unless I'm in like a certain spot or I know like my league that well, that like a fourth is enough for me to get rid of him. You know what I mean? So I'd like to say like dead asset, but I also just kind of like for the only getting a fourth back, I'll fuck around and find out. Like I'll see. I'd say maybe in like best ball leagues, I'd be more interested in moving them for a fourth. Just get me an open roster spot and I'll find some fucking wide receiver. A Trey Tucker-ish type thing that I can just throw in there, right? Mm-hmm. Or like with the episode we did talking about these off-the-walls Deion Thorntons, like these kind of guys, right? Chisholms, right? I want some Chisholms, right?
Yeah.
Give me the fourth and let me just take a dart throw at one of those guys. In most lineup leagues, though, I'm probably holding them for a fourth, but it's not looking good. You want to say like dead out of the gates? How many times have we seen a guy coming off an ACL, in his rookie year tear the same exact ACL. Like, it never. It's a very rare situation, man. I don't know how many times you come back from that same ACL knee injury. Like, the second one's got to be fucking brutal from a medical standpoint. I don't know. This is where we wish we had Dr. B in here.
For sure.
Like,
I was
like
gonna
how
say,
big of a detriment is it if you tear the same exact fucking ACL in back-to-back years?
That I don't even know how much data we have, frankly, Mike. But to tell you the truth, I think, at least for me, when I say to tell you the truth, the thing I would be concerned about, you've played, we haven't played in the NFL or in the NBA, but like playing high levels of sports, Mike, to me, one of the things that's under talked about is, I think, the psychology of the injury, right? You come back and you need to be able to trust it. And a lot of times in that first year back off of an injury, there's a re-injury risk because you overcompensate. You don't trust it enough. If you just came back from an injury and you tore the same thing again, to me, one of the things that's like under talked about here is, let's say the surgery goes well and we get him back on the field. To get back to trust, and not to mention you haven't played football in a couple seasons now, that's an uphill battle, my friend.
The last one that I can remember that was that quickly back-to-back, like, we've had guys that maybe tore that ACL in college and then 4 or 5
came back
years
again later. Sure, right.
Right, and then tear it like that quickly, though, within a year time. So the last running back I can remember doing it never got a chance in the NFL, and he was a hell of a prospect. You remember Marcus Lattimore from South Carolina?
South Cat.
I mean, that guy was a fucking freak, and then suffered 2 devastating fucking knee injuries. I believe it was to the same fucking knee too, and then he might have got a cup of coffee with San Francisco, and that was it.
And it was over. Yeah. I can't remember if it was the same one, but to your point, I know he continued to deal with an injury, and then it was over before you knew it.
It was
Dr. B's here. I'd love to hear your doctor analysis.
You got to say it 3 times. My bad, I forgot to.
This is a house of learned doctors. I'm going to put up his comment here in a second, but let's go ahead, Mike. Let's get into, if you missed on those both now. Listen, this one is definitely third of the bunch.
Bang bang.
But, Mike, I want to make sure I'm getting you get to the 11th round. There's 2 guys. We're not going to pull up Aaron Jones, but he's kind of the last one. But Tony Pollard, to me, is, in my opinion, honestly kind of disrespected at running back 33, the 1101.
He's been disrespected for 2 fucking years now, Adam. 2.
And I get it because he didn't finish super strong last year. But, Mike, this guy was relative to, I think, the expectations. He actually delivered pretty well, pretty decent. Certainly, if you're at this point and you're needing another, like a running back 2 or running back 3, which you're drafting running back 3 prices here, you could do a lot fucking worse than Tony Pollard, Mike. And the narrative of, this year they're going to, I think, want to use him a lot less than did last year. You can say that at this point, right? But one of the things is they've never used, and I don't think TyJay Spears, speaking of the knee issues that he has, they're not going to give him a heavy usage either. I think Tony Pollard's going to get a ton of work again. And in the event that somehow he doesn't, Mike, we have seen when he doesn't actually get that crazy bell cow usage that he actually is way more efficient. Part of I think the reason that he has this cloud over him is his efficiency since getting the bell cow usage since back in Dallas when Zeke finally left has just took a massive shot. He has not been anywhere near as efficient with all the usage his increase has been over the last couple seasons.
So there's a few issues with Tony Pollard that keeps him down here. And again, this is a guy that shouldn't be in this range. And you want to talk about James Conner, Swift, Tony Pollard, you can put all these guys back to back to back, right? We saw what the teams did with them last year. They were giving them usage, even though they had other options. They chose, we're good. We're going to give it to the trusty guys. And they produced for fantasy purposes. One of the first issues with Tony Pollard is TyJay Spears was the new sexy toy, right? That everybody wanted to succeed, right? Like everybody was like, that's going to be the guy. That's who we want. Knee issues be damned. We saw like 2 games out of him his rookie year, and people were like, that's the guy. That's the guy we want. So as soon as Derrick Henry's out of fucking town, it's TyJay Spears time. Yeah. And we anointed him. Mm-hmm. Tennessee then went out and told you, no, we don't give a shit about that. We're going to pay Tony Pollard a pretty significant contract in free agency and bring him in. Like they told us what they wanted to do. Nobody wanted to listen. Well, most people didn't. We listened, Adam. We listened to what Tennessee said. And then right out the gates, Who was the one getting the bell cow work? Tony fucking Pollard, not T.J. Spears. T.J. Spears.
Yeah, he wasn't going to – T.J. was not very likely to get the bell cow usage. He might have been able to be a 1A, 1B type of a thing. But Tony Pollard, if there was going to be someone that gets the bell cow usage, it was going to be him.
He wasn't even a 1B.
Right,
the other thing that people hate about Tony Pollard is, after Zeke left town and he got the usage in Dallas, he had a phenomenal start to the year. But then he suffered that brutal fucking ankle injury, which we've seen now for multiple years on multiple different players. Like, you fracture your ankle in that manner, you coming back from it sucks. Like,
it zaps all of your real high-end explosion.
It takes a while. Like, I mean, we've seen multiple years now where it's taken guys till the end of the season. Mark Andrews is another one that comes to mind. Surprisingly, I didn't put him on my list, but that's an honorable mention that should be on here. For a lot of the same reasons I'm going to give on Tony Pollard. Had a fantastic year, right? And we go, wow, like, he's got it. But then he had that ankle injury, and he disappointed through most of the fucking year for the Dallas Cowboys. Unless you look at just the last few games, like the last 4 or 5 games of that season, Tony Pollard was finally being back to old Tony Pollard. And it was enough for Tennessee to go, perfect, that's the guy that we want to sign. Then you saw him start last year, and you go, fucking Tony Pollard, like, what a value. And then he kind of faded again down the stretch. But I don't know necessarily if that's an indictment on Tony Pollard or an indictment on the Tennessee offense was a complete fucking disaster by then. Will Levis, the experiment was over by then. It was Mason Rudolph, and then Mason Rudolph sucked, and then it was back to Will Levis, and Will Levis sucked again. Real no production from wide receivers at that point. The whole fucking team was shot at that point, which is why they ended up with the number 1 pick. They were so fucking disgustingly bad.
Yeah.
All that stink. You know, the T.J. Spears, we wanted to anoint him. Tony Pollard, we still remember him being dog shit for Dallas that one year to start the season. We don't really remember the playoff run that he had that was pretty fucking good for us. And then Tennessee's dysfunction last year, and again, just the end of the season just fade off into oblivion. This lands you a Tony Pollard in the 11th round, apparently, which is ludicrous. Ludicrous. Like, if I could walk out of a startup draft right now with Swift, Connor, and Tony Pollard as my 3 running backs, knowing that I didn't have to spend a top 10 pick or a top 10 round pick on them, I've probably got a pretty good fucking team, man. I'm like, yep. And are you competing in this league? Fucking right I am. Right I am.
I think at this point, right, like, you already hit on a lot of the, and very well said about the reasons why he's kind of cemented down here. I guess for me, one of the things about it is we're drafting still some older running backs when they have shown the ability to get a high percentage of usage, which he still did, and actually was solid relative to the situation. You talk about the situation, right? I think going into this year, the Titans, realistically, probably for most people, they think not going to be all that much better. However, there's still an opportunity where they definitely are improved with the number 1 overall pick, a quarterback of Cam Ward, than they were at times last year. So if the offense takes any semblance of improvement, right, that's a good thing for Tony Pollard. And what happened to the old days? I know we want to get very, forward thinking. We're sharper players. Whatever happened to just the old tried and true, though? Don't we want to chase opportunity at the running back position? Like 8th in the NFL last year in carries, Mike. 9th in the NFL at the running back position in targets. You're looking at like opportunity share, snap share. These are all top. As far as usage goes, you're basically top 10 across the board last year, right? That's not very likely to change unless you really believe this narrative that they're going to really limit his touches. And, Mike, the other thing is you look at the bad metrics for how horrible it was at times. Stuffed runs, number 7 in the NFL. There's so many metrics which basically say he had to do everything on his own last year. So if there is any improvement, there's an opportunity where he ends up finishing, Mike, I think realistically, not even being crazy here, as a top 15 to 17 back. And that would be just him being solid. That wouldn't even be him taking a huge step forward. You're drafting him at running back 33.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. We got some good running backs in this range.
So there you go. That's the tier. Don't leave without getting one of those, or you will shed a tier. Let's go ahead and let's get into the same
or
team.
3.
The same team, Mike. Let's stay in that Tennessee, and let's stay in the same round, just barely, the 11-12. Calvin Ridley. This is not the real jersey for the record, okay? But Graphic God does some pretty sweet alternate like jersey swaps. I'm like, you know what? This is clean enough that we're gonna throw it up here, buddy.
They need to make that a real jersey.
He does these and it's like, what if they did make these? And they'd be like, oh, this would be fire as hell.
Dr. B would pay $1 billion for that. That combo?
Yeah, hell yeah. I would be all over this. Pause, but not really. Mike, I mean, this is the crazy part about it. Not just the 11-12 and some of the players around. Calvin Ridley is outside of the top 50. Count them 50. 50 wide receivers in Dynasty. I got to let you get your mic on unmuted
50.
so you can take over.
50.
That part shocked me when we looked at this ADP. We were in lockstep on him. That shocked me.
How many wide receivers in that range would you say are the number one landslide option on their team? Like, no question.
Landslide, you cannot do that. Some people are of the mindset that is Juwan Jennings. That might happen, but it's not a landslide. Calvin Ridley is assuredly, like, not even close at all the wide receiver one on this team.
I mean, like, I give you wide receiver one, maybe, right? Like the Juwan Jennings thing I talked with Fizz on Friday about it, right?
On his team, right.
Yeah, but then you got George Kittle, right? Like, you go...
Sure. What if McCaffrey stays healthy? How many targets is he looking at, right?
Right. So this is where you're starting with. And you're going... Then you look at the Titans and you go, I know they got Calvin Ridley. And Chigaquanko is kind of like low-key nice. But it's like a warp tight end life. That's sure. Where I'm at on Chig, right?
Yeah.
Who else? Can you guys name me? Like, besides Dr. B, can you name me another wide receiver on this team? Please.
Floor is yours. Tell us in the comments.
I'm waiting who the other guy is. Like, who is it? If you switch, you fucking say Treylon Burks. I'm gonna fall out of this chair.
Is Treylon Burks a special teams god now? Because it might be his only hope. It might be his only hope to make the squad.
He wears 18. Could he be the next Matthew Slater? You know, just like 20 years of special teams for the Tennessee Titans. Just all pro stud. Sure. Yeah. A.O. Manor, is that it?
There you go. Mike, there you found it. That's it. That's the reason.
Is it 5'5", 40 Xavier Restrepo? Is that the guy?
If we're talking about clips and what's happening right now, yeah, that's exactly why. You know, that makes a lot of sense.
It's crazy how many guys on this list for years I've been just like poo-pooing. Like, I'm good, man. Like, I'm not in on Calvin Ridley. Mm-hmm. But that was back when he was like, what, top 20 dynasty wide receiver? Yeah. People are like, I know he's suspended for a year, but just wait till he comes back, man. He's going to be the best value in all of dynasty. You guys were like a year or two early, all right? Here we are. I didn't like Tony Pollard. I didn't like Calvin Ridley. Like, as much as I'm an Iowa Hawkeye guy, like T.J. Hockenson's price never made sense to me. I fucking hated J.J. McCarthy coming out in the pre-draft process. Every one of these fucking guys is showing up on like this year's 2025. Like, apparently this is the year me and Calvin Ridley are going to be best friends.
Yeah, well, here's, I guess, there's from week 8 on last year, Mike, okay? Which, for the record, you talked about how in the back half of the season, it's one of those situations where I have seen time and time again as a Browns fan, like, nobody looks interested to play. It looks like it's really bad, including all those weeks, though, Mike. Calvin Ridley last year during those weeks was not points per game, just total points. He was wide receiver 19, okay?
19.
Yes, even if you go points per game now, okay, and give everybody points per game credit that maybe played a half a game or one game, whatever it is, he's still wide receiver 30, all right? Now, just stick with me on this. Let's say this offense, like, imagine Cam Ward's not actually there, and it's like Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, whatever, the garbage they throw out there. If you're drafting him at wide receiver 52, even if he gave me wide receiver 30 points per game for this coming up season, like, I'm ahead.
Big dub. Oh my God.
What if Cam Ward actually just decides, you know what, in the moments where it's not looking good, I just need to get number 0 more targets and more opportunity.
So I sorted ADP just from the draft up through now. 52 is like he's falling down, Adam. He's 1201 now. 1201.
Well,
Just
there's a lot of young
now.
players. This guy, Mike, he's 30. He's going to be 31 in the season. I mean, he's really old.
Jack Besh. Jack Besh would cover. Keon Coleman.
Hold on. Jack Besh, in all the non-news coming out for Jack Besh, right? He's a full round ahead. A full round ahead.
This is fucking nuts. I mean, we got Calvin Ridley down next to Darnell Mooney, Rashid Shaheed, Jalen McMillan, who just had Emeka Buka drafted to his team. Chris Godwin re-signed, and Mr. 1K still there. Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. Like, Jesus Christ.
Mike, if you're talking 11, 12, 12th round, if he just gave me one more season of solid production, that's what you paid for, honestly.
That's all you need.
One season of solid. I'm not even talking great, solid production. You've already made your bet in the 12th round.
Just be a wide receiver 2-3.
Right.
Even if you're a wide receiver 3, I'm happy. Like, good job, buddy.
Even if you're a high-end wide receiver 3, mid wide receiver 3, like, that would be solid. It wouldn't be what you would hope, right? But, like, what if he plays a couple seasons? What if he's better than a wide receiver 3? What if he's a top 24, top 20 wide receiver this year? Even for 1 year.
What if his quarterback has a really surprisingly good year and approaches 4,000 yards passing and say 25 to 30 touchdowns? What if? It's just saying. This is the only show in town, too, at the wide receiver position. The only show in town. And we're going to take him behind Jack fucking Besh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a move.
By the way, I want to talk about
something.
Last thing here. I understand if you're not bullish on the Titans and you don't think very highly of Cam Ward doing well in his first season. Okay, fine. The narrative here is where at a certain point you got to draw the line of we got to chase usage, man. Last year in the horrible offense and all that, Mike, he was wide receiver 18 as far as targets go, and that should not change. If anything, possibly more, but 120 targets. Like, the amount of receivers that get 120 targets is just, they don't grow on trees, buddy. I'm willing to, even at 30, even with, all the gambling baggage he carries, whatever it is, whatever the narratives are, I don't understand, but I'm willing to take my shot here, okay? And earlier than this, for the record.
Definitely. I think the Titans with Tony Pollard, Chig, Cam Ward, and Calvin Ridley could be a surprisingly decent offense, right? I'm not going to say elite, but they could be surprisingly decent and really give you some real cheap production for relative to what you have to pay in a startup right now. I mean, these Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley prices are stupid. They're just dumb.
Yeah, they are.
Dumb.
Yeah, and then the last one, which we are going to go as deep as we'll get as far as, relying on something or someone you can pencil in as a starter, and maybe you don't feel the greatest about it, but you're not, like, getting completely malnourished, if you will. And, Mike, how has Dallas Goedert become tight end 23 and almost outside of the 14th round? He's in almost the 15th round, middle of round 14. I get it. He has not delivered anywhere near probably what people were hoping for, years ago. But Mike, he's actually going behind Elijah Arroyo, which, listen, Noah Fant, we already know, bad take by me. It's over for him. And as much as I do like the prospect of Elijah Arroyo, the draft capital, we still have no idea what that's going to be. He's going behind him. He's going behind Terrence Ferguson. He's barely going ahead of Harold Fannin. I mean, explain it to me. Muted, but try. This is what I hear when people try to tell me what's going on, what's wrong with Dallas Goedert.
Tight end 23 for a guy who hasn't been outside tight end 1 territory since 2018. Adam, 2018. You and I didn't even know each other in 2018. That's how
Sure
long
didn't.
it's been.
Sure didn't.
Like, I had no idea who the fuck you were.
Even if there was a fire.
What targets? Who gives a fuck?
Mike, by the way,
gives a fuck?
you were speaking of Elick, man. I mean, this is the range that Goddard's going, honestly.
This is like sent from heaven for a guy who goes, tight ends don't matter. I'll just take fucking any tight end, past like the 10th, 12th, 11th, whatever the fuck round. Like, just give me a tight end there. And I sit here and I look and I go, well, that guy ain't going to be a tight end one. That guy ain't it. This guy's done it every fucking year since 2018. Yeah, let me just take him. Let me just take him, and I'm just going to bank on the fact. Listen, even if Dallas Goedert is disappointing like he was last year, for everybody that you fucking hate him, guess what? I still got a tight end one, and I didn't have to fucking pay what you guys did, right? I didn't have to spend an 8th rounder to get the very same fucking production that I got in the 14th.
Yeah.
As much as you hate him, who the hell is taking his job, right? Is this still off of like he was going to get traded at the draft? Is that what this is? Like we're getting rid of Dallas Goedert at the draft? That's what happened?
So DeAndre Swift, Mike, I think sometimes when the narrative just fits what people want to do, right? It's a player that's disappointed, not live up to expectations, older, and there's a lot more in the range that they're going, younger players. Even if the reason that they kind of got pushed down the board changes completely, I think sometimes those people just want to keep them down here. So even though that news cycle, so to speak, has been lifted, right? He hasn't moved on. Philly still I guess at this point, here's the reason I think he's going here. If you told me, I think I got to make my best case as to why that is. Everybody wants to try to draft their tight end one, right? The one that they feel like they can start, right? So if you look earlier, we talked about Kittle's going in the 6th now, but I'm using just an aging player for reference here, right? But at this point, when you get to the tight ends outside the top, 15, right after, I'd say Ingram, Mason Taylor range, everybody's starting to probably draft more so now, Mike, which is something we just don't do anymore at all. Another tight end, right? They're tight end of the future to replace the one they drafted way earlier. So I think that's the reason why in startups you see him going almost outside of the tight end 2s is because people now have already taken their Tucker Kraft or their, Trey McBride or their Brock Bowers. And then it's like, okay, no, I don't want Dallas Goedert to be the guy that's going to be in waiting. I want Terrence. I want Ferguson. I want Harold Fannin. I think that's how he gets pushed down is because people at this point, they think so little of Dallas Goedert, they're not even looking anywhere near a starter down this range. So eventually someone just looks and is like, oh my gosh, how is he still on the board in the 14th or 15th round? And they eventually just press the button almost reluctantly. I think that's the reason he's down here, if that makes any sense.
And yet we push Isaiah Likely up to tight end 10 on Geep Trade Cut off of one usable week last year? One fucking usable week last year? Dallas Goedert in a terrible season. Banged up, injured, all over the place. Week 3, 27 fantasy points. Tight end 1 overall. Already beat fucking Isaiah Likely to the just spanked the shit out of him, right? Because Isaiah Likely's one big week that he had last year. Nobody fucking started him because it was week 1. We didn't even think it was his job. We're not starting a backup tight end first week of fantasy football season. Are you fucking insane? Yet we're going to push his ass up to tight end 10. Here's the other thing that I love about Dallas Goedert too, right? Just based on last year. It was a bad year for him, right? Target share wasn't there. Targets weren't there.
There was nothing about his season last year to be excited about, really.
He had 2 fucking touchdowns, all year. That's all he got. You got to the playoffs, Adam. Outside of the blowout in the Super Bowl, this guy was double-digit fantasy points in the playoffs. Back when he got fully
playoffs,
fully integrated, fully integrated back into the offense. Dallas Goedert was carrying what up until the Super Bowl was a pretty inept passing offense in the playoffs. Dallas Goedert was the number 1 option, not Devontae Smith, not A.J. Brown. They were running the football and throwing it to Dallas Goedert.
Mm-hmm.
What if that trend continues? What if that trend continues and is maybe Dallas Goedert was just really banged up? Because we saw a monster week against New Orleans. He won you fucking weeks. And then we saw him get injured. We saw him not do anything for the majority of the rest of the regular season outside of just a random touchdown here or there or bad tight end weeks by everybody else, and Dallas Goedert was somewhat serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
What if the playoffs was like, all right, that was a sign that he's back. He's back. So instead of being that 10 fantasy point per game guy, being a top 12 tight end, what if he's back to being like 12? Maybe 13. Well, in a sneakily good tight end one. Well, and you're getting him in the 14th round.
I want, and you can, I think, speak to this as well as anybody as a Philly fan following this, okay? Because I think sometimes people just get completely disinterested and not – nobody cares about Dallas Goedert anymore. And I guess to an extent, rightfully so, but when it gets to this point, I'm no. Mike, 2023 season, okay? So, I'm sorry, this would be 2 years ago, 2022. I'm going to get to the snap share, but the last 2 years, the snap share has been really rough if you look just totality-wise relative to what the field is. But he's been dealing with a lot of nagging injuries, and I think that probably plays even further into why people are disinterested. They don't trust him to stay healthy. Can you talk about some of the injuries he's dealt with the last couple of years and what we can kind of realistically think about for him moving into this year? Because I want to get to 2022 after you do that.
He's had some just absolutely brutal ones, and I think, listen, I'm no expert here. I like Dallas Goedert as a person. I like him as a player. I love him on Philly. Like I didn't really want to get rid of him unless we had a really good option. We were gonna go draft Colston Loveland or something like that. Like that was the only okay, fuck it, bye Dallas.
Sure.
It's gonna sound shitty to say, but ever since he got sucker punched in that fucking bar, right? Like you remember that video? Like the guy just fucking cold cocked the shit out of him.
That was crazy, by the way. Yeah.
It felt like karma is just like caught up to him for something he did when he was younger, right? He gets sucker punched in the bar. Then you had the weird like going out of bounds and he didn't land on it. It was just the way he like stiff armed the Dallas defender that he fractured his fucking forearm, right?
Right.
And you're
right.
Like, what
the forearm
fuck,
one
man?
Was ridiculous. Ugh.
Like, how the fuck you break your forearm like that? Like, I've never seen that. And then these last couple years, like last year, he dealt with a knee injury, right? Cost him 4 games, right? These fucking tight ends and their knee injuries, man. We gotta stop hitting these tight ends in the knees, please. Can we do that?
I mean,
hamstring strain.
Yep.
And then before that, it was like broken forearm, groin, partially torn labrum, like just a litany of injuries and just nicks and knacks all over the place. But if you go look at most tight ends, Adam, I imagine their injury history over the last 3 years looks pretty fucking similar. Like it really does. It's a brutal position for those guys to play. Knee injuries. They also got to block like fucking offensive linemen against giant defensive tackles and ridiculously athletic defensive ends. It's a tough fucking position for these tight ends to play. So I imagine most of them were. Dallas Goedert just kind of feels like he's a little bit on the unlucky side ever since he got sucker punched.
Yeah, I do think, like, obviously all those injuries take place, and now you're looking at, like, a team that's just, as far as passing volume, really low, right? They're unbelievable defense. They're going to run the ball like crazy. So I think you see a lot of, upside capped with Dallas Goedert, and I get that, but again, where you're drafting him, mind you, right? Almost outside of tight end 2s, for God's sakes. But go back before, the injury-riddled last couple seasons. Like, this is a guy that's playing on 90% of snaps, because one of the things about him I think that's now missed completely is he is such a good blocker. Like, when healthy, this is a guy that you just never want to take off the field at the tight end position, right? Like, he's such a good blocker, and he can catch the ball, believe it or not. It's been a while since we've seen it much, but Mike, this is a guy that's going to be potentially on the field all the time in an offense that is going to be in the red zone a lot. At worst, if he stays healthy. Like, that would be like I think if he stays healthy, right, that's an if, the floor play is just a guy that's going to be in the red zone a lot, which is when you're drafting towards the later part of the tight ends, it's a lot of touchdown-dependent tight ends. Dallas Goedert, I think, is at the point where you're drafting him, probably doesn't have this, like, value rise, right? Like, even if he plays well, people aren't going to start caring suddenly, but he does at least give you a very solid tight end option if you do decide to punt on the position and draft very good skill players at all your other rounds ahead of time.
What's nuts for him is his range of outcomes for this season, right? Like realistic range of outcomes for him is the exact same as Tucker Kraft, and yet everyone's bought into Tucker Kraft. And
I
this
was
is
just gonna say he is so similar. He is so similar to Tucker Kraft, who's going at the 908. But now, granted, not at the age that he is for sure.
Right. But at tight end, really, how much does fucking age matter? To be completely honest, right? How much does it actually matter for these guys?
Dallas Goedert, regardless, is gonna get a contract and play somewhere else. If it's over for sure, whatever, with Philadelphia here soon. This is a guy that's good enough to play for another couple seasons minimum, maybe 3. I mean, maybe longer even.
Maybe we don't really know. But tight end age is always kind of a fugaz, right? Because Adam, you did this years ago. Anytime a young tight end does something, we want to pump them up and move them up to the fucking top. And that has always been the biggest cheat code in dynasty football was like, yeah, go ahead, take my Greg Dulcich, take my Brevin Jordan, let's
look guys that haven't done anything that are young. Terrence Ferguson ahead of him, Elijah Arroyo ahead of him, Mason Taylor ahead of him, right? Like this is before, and then to your point, if they have 2 or 3 weeks where they show decently, I mean, look, he's going in the range of Jatavian Sanders, who last year was still largely projection, right? Like, anyway, yeah.
The biggest case for Dallas Goedert or any of these tight ends, like down in this range, like because Mark Andrews is also down in the 9th round. You know, it's got some pretty good upside to him, right? Especially if the back half of the season is more an indication of Mark Andrews of old, off of that tightrope surgery on the fractured ankle. Tight end for me is, listen, if you're a tight end, T.J. Hockenson, George Kittle, like if I can get you at value, like we talked about those guys, if I get you at value and you have tight end 1 overall upside, or you're probably going to finish in that top 4 tight end range, in most leagues, that's a warp that does matter. That's a warp that is an advantage. Everybody else kind of falls in the range of, listen, who the fuck do I think is slightly better than, or in Dallas Goedert's case, a hell of a lot better than what I have to pay for in a startup or in a trade scenario? Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews are going to fall into that category because everybody else is going to go chase, like you said, Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, like young guys that probably ain't going to do shit, right? They might give you a tight end 18, 19 season. I'm going to get a slightly better one out of Dallas Goedert and pay less. Like, you explain to me how the fuck that works, but it works every time in almost every single dynasty league. Tight end is one of the most overvalued, and youth is oversought at the tight end position for no fucking reason. And just get dudes who just produce. Like, you're not going to get elite numbers out of Dallas Goedert. You may not get elite numbers out of Mark Andrews, but at the value that they have, fuck it. Why not? Why not shoot your shot on those kind of guys?
Zach Willard, by the way, he sent me, for the sake of the screen share, because I'm getting ready to put the warp up for Dallas Goedert. For the sake of the screen share, I'm just going to tell you, he went in the 16th round, Mike, in the draft that he's in, which is a tight end premium draft. So it's just, some of the hate is crazy. But let's go ahead. I'll pull up some warp here for you, just to take a peek at. All right. Can you see that there? There we go. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
So this is 1.75 tight end premium relative to, this is just a league setting I just created. This isn't a league I'm actually in, right? This is just for the sake of looking at warp. Yeah. If we look last year, which, by the way, I don't know that it's really going to matter, but once you get past, here's what I was going to say. Once you get past like 1 warp or below, which, by the way, Tucker Kraft is there. Who cares?
Yes.
Thank you, right?
Who cares?
So it's just, by the way, I don't know what Dallas Goedert, for the record, is 21, right?
21st.
So
yep.
Even last year, which I would say, Mike, I would almost argue for sure is the worst that we got, he outperformed his ADP at the moment in dynasty startups.
Yes. A terrible season, injury-riddled season.
Right. As bad as it gets is better. He's better than that, and the worst that you could have, right?
Those are definitely going to be our guys, Adam. And I was just looking through it while we were going through it. Let's just assume we got the first pick in this league, right? And when I talk about that strategy, of just like we could get our guys. We're going to say that we got to draft them at or before ADP, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to cheat. We're not going to take them after.
I love this.
Hypothetically, 101 pick. Where are we going? Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, don't give a shit. That's how we're starting.
Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar is a tier for me. I don't care which one you pick as long as you pick one of those, right?
All right. So at the 212, Adam, we could take Drake London, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, Vlad. Let's just assume I'm big influence on this one. We're taking CJ Stroud. Okay. We're starting two quarterbacks, Adam. Right. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
All right. So there's not third round reversal here. So we're going 301. We're going to play it straight up like these heathens. Okay. So we get another choice. What else do we want to do? We took two quarterbacks, third round. You want to take a receiver here?
Sure. I mean, well, what's on? What are we looking at realistically?
Marv, Vlad, JSN. Just pick one.
Let's go Marv just for the sake of it.
We'll go Marv. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So we're back up at the 412, Adam. You know what we're doing at the 412?
I have a feeling, but tell me.
J.J. fucking McCarthy.
I was going to say, well, if it wasn't him, it was Rome. It was one of the two fifth-round guys we took. I know for sure.
Don't worry. At the 501, we're taking Rome Odunze. All right, so we get another one here.
Bang,
Marv,
bang.
Rome Odunze, we got three quarterbacks.
Bang, bang, South Harmon gang.
6th round, man. 612. Let's go ahead of ADP. Let's get our tight end.
I was going to say, that's too easy for Hawk, no?
Yeah, too easy. Let's take T.J. Hockenson in the 6th round. But that leaves 701. You got Addison, Ibuka. You could take DK Metcalf, Waddle, JMO. Got a pick there for another wide receiver.
Say it again. Sorry, I was looking at this draft he sent me where all of our players are going later. I'm going to get to that. Say
Addison, Ibuka. Which one do you want?
Let's go Ibuka just for keep the youth movement going here.
Keep the memes. Okay. 812. We're back up.
Back at the 812.
Yep. Let's wait one more round before we start drafting running backs.
I was just going to say, okay. All right. I like the plan. I'm with you. Let's stick with it.
8-12. We could go Mark Andrews. We could go Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Devontae Adams. I like Devontae Adams.
I was just going to say, let's get some old guys to go with the young guys we drafted earlier.
There we go. All right, 901. You want to take our first running back here? We'll take him ahead of ADP so we can get these guys.
Let's do it.
You want to take James Conner?
Let's go ahead and let's stick to that Devontae Adams old crusty theme, you know?
All right, 10-12. We're back up. You want to take another one of our guys on this list?
I mean, Tony Pollard, right? Absolutely.
Tony Pollard. And then what do we got? 12-12 here. Our choices would be Ramondre, Javonte Williams, Tank Bigsby. Like, this starts to get disgusting. And
you see why I said I want to get at least one of these guys? We got two. Yep. Why I want to get at least one. If you had one running back and then you start getting to this range, I'm not saying you can't patchwork together the running back position, any running back on a 53, but week one, you're like, who the fuck am I starting? Literally, yeah. So, gosh, same again. This is rough. This is ugly.
It just gets disgusting. But that's just to go through. Like, if you don't take a running back until our first one came off at the 901 for fuck's sake.
Right.
Like the first time we take a running back is until the 9th round, and your team ends up with we got three quarterbacks. We got Marv. Like, we got Rome. We got Ibuka. We got old crusty Devontae Adams. We got T.J. Hockenson, potential tight end one. Like, and now we're just filling the rest of this shit out. You know what? We'll take Dallas Goedert for our backup fucking tight end in the 14th round.
What we just did, Mike, I'm going to give you – this is in a real startup. This is Zach Willard's team, okay? By the way, our guy, Seth Dywald, is in this league. So, and as well as Obi, another name I see on here, just while glancing.
Look at that.
All right? So, Zach Willard at the 110 spot. This is his draft. All right, you ready for this?
Yep.
First, Malik, then Amon-Ra at the 203. Then he gets JSN at the 303. Now, obviously, you need some quarterbacks. How about 410 Baker, 503 Cam Ward? All right. I like it. Then let's go ahead and he says I'm going to lean back into the wide receivers. He's going to get Smitty at the 610, DK at the 703.
All right.
One more crusty. Let's get Tyreek at the 810. Now, let's go ahead and get all the guys that they talked about. DeAndre Swift at the 903, Tony Pollard at the 1010, Aaron Jones at the 1103. How's that for if you waited to get those guys?
Not too bad. And then what did you say?
He ended up getting Dallas Goedert in the 16th there, and he got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback 3 for the moment.
That team fucks. Team fucks, man.
It does. And, wow.
As much as running backs had a resurgence last year, and, we'll talk about Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. This is Saquon, Ashton Genty. Like, those are good players. They are.
Yeah.
But this old tried and true, like, just, man, fuck these running backs. Because they're even with running back values pushed up, the James Connors, the DeAndre Swifts, the Tony Pollards of the fucking world. Listen, I'm not the biggest Javonte fucking Williams fan. But there's a realistic case where he's the RB1 of Dallas and getting, like, Javonte Williams could be something. You can get that fucking guy in the 12th or 13th. Shit, you might get him where you got Dallas Goedert the 16th. Nobody gives a shit.
You sexy thing. We got D-Bro in the house. What's up, Sex Machine? What's going on, buddy?
There's no fucking reason that you actually have to take running backs. You really don't.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, I'm aboard doing it if it makes sense, right? But I think what you just said very clearly to me is, if you miss out on the Gibbs and the Genty and the Barkleys, and they go at their current ADP or ahead, and they don't fall to a position where it makes a lot of sense for you to draft them, Mike, there is no need to start panicking in the 4th or the 5th. Like, I need to have a running back. You still could take a good value there. I'm not saying you can't draft one, but realize that you still could apply the same principles as last year, even though the market has increased, because it hasn't increased on all the running backs. It's just increased a lot, in particular on the ones that did extremely well last year.
And that's just startup ADP, Adam. Like, a lot of this is going to be prevalent in auction startups too, which are finally gaining steam. The only caveat I'll make is usually, okay, let me just say this, usually, not all, because there's still a lot of casual leagues that don't appreciate the quarterback position, but you'll see a lot more inflated quarterback values in auction startups. Right? Like, they start to go, people really hit the panic button, and some shittier quarterbacks will get bid up a lot higher. I think I still have the same approach, though, is fuck the running back positions. I'll let everybody else spend their money on Bijan and Gibbs and Saquon and Genty and, all these other guys, the RJ Harveys of the world, the Calebs, the Trevions, the Quinshon Judkins. You guys spend all your fucking money on these guys, okay? I'm going to go for the super crusties that, in $1,000 budget, it's not absurd to say that Swift and Pollard and Connor will go for like $20. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Here you go. Right.
You're plugging RB2s in there for those spots for that
that's
cheap.
Right. That's what I'm going to allocate for. Listen, I'm going to get my quarterbacks, so I'm probably going to have to pay up for J.J. McCarthy in it. And fuck the tight end position, too. We go right to I'm going to wait for Dallas Goedert. I'm going to wait for that kind of thing where I'm going to pay $7 for Dallas Goedert as a steal.
Right. Yeah.
It's the wide receiver positions that, even though running backs were the big thing, man, those are the assets where they're the nice, shiny fucking toys on your dynasty roster. So even in an auction, the same kind of strategy applies. Just tweak the quarterback thing. You got to be aware that people are going to make you pay for quarterbacks, right? Like, you want Josh Allen, you're going to pay for Josh Allen. Usually in most of them. But in traditional snake startups, holy shit, man, it is – I don't think I'll ever do a startup unless the warp is fucking ridiculously nuts, like the Fizzle League that we just did, where I took Bijan in the first.
Mike, I was going to say best ball.
Most
if
of
you,
them,
if you best ball it, and if you make it a best ball league and the warp is really leaning to the running back position, I will go crazy. I'll go crazy. But outside of that, Mike, I'm especially in lineup leagues, it's just this point D-Bro made is I'm still very much of this mindset. And some of the best teams I have, even in lineup, Mike, honestly, I've got Gibbs on one team that I can think of. And my next running back, I just bought Tony Pollard for a second. After that, I've got a bunch of Jags, and I got a bunch of rookies later on, right? You're okay if you don't have a stud, or if you only have one very good running back that you can rely on, just piecing together running back position. You don't have to have a bunch of goons and a bunch of high-end options at the running back position in a regular PPR league in Dynasty. You just don't have to.
Right. T-Bro out here trying to besmirch the good name of Dallas Goedert. Listen, you could take the Ferg, Arroyo, and Fannin, but according to ADP, you got to take them ahead of Dallas Goedert. So you can't take them for even less. And how quickly we forget this whole Ben Sinnott thing. Like, how quickly we forget that second-round tight ends sometimes suck and don't do shit. And they're not worth a fuck. And the old guys need love, okay? We're in rookie season. Listen, we're moving on. We're on to veteran production season. That's where we're at now.
We are on to, as much as I normally would right here, play the AMA intro, we are on to trying to get some questions. Please ask them
Hurry
before we get out of here, because here's Mike, you're gonna love this. I will say, while it is a 10-team league, he at least had the presence of mind. I know. ... He understands. He's
like
letting you
Satoshi.
know, Mike. I know you're gonna crush me for it, but just try. Any advice on how to push for a start 10 instead of a start 9 feels too shallow right now.
It's always tough. It's a home league, right? Like, so I've been in this. Listen,
Yeah.
my home league is still 1 QB.
It's so
10-man
hard to
league.
get them to move anything.
It took me years to get to half PPR, Satoshi. Like,
Mike, it took me years to get to sleeper.
It took me years to get to sleeper too. I had to whine and cry for years. So, any advice? Just be persistent. Keep being a pain in the ass. That's the best you can do. Because, listen, nobody likes fucking change. They don't.
I think
most people ain't open to new ideas. They don't give a fuck.
Especially this time of year, I think the easiest way to do it for a home league is, okay, in a 10-man league, most rosters are so ridiculously good that the way I would try to present it in this scenario is, hey, look at everyone's first or second bench option. They're not hardly any different than probably your last flex. Adding these are only going to make it a little more competitive and a little like more points and more variance in there. So that's the way I would try to present it. I don't think that you have I think at this time right now you have your best chance because everybody's teams for the most part are healthy. They think highly of their players. Like asking this in the middle of the season, Mike, all of a sudden I don't think you have a good chance, but maybe you have it now. I don't know if you have a good chance in general switching to home league. But Jay Jackson with contract disputes and potential TD regression coming. Are you fading Terry this season? I know what Mike's answer is, so Mike, go ahead.
No, I'd fade him if he wasn't already cheap as shit, right? Like that's the tough thing. Like you want to fade him because you're like, yes, I do agree, contract disputes, and yes, touchdown regression. And then you go look at ADP and you're like, why? Why? Like, where am I going to fade him to?
Yeah, he's wide receiver 24.
Ooh, right. Even if you have the touchdown regression and you have a little bit of contract dispute and it's a little bit salty in that locker room, can Terry still be wide receiver 24 for this year?
Here's what I would say. Fading. Okay, in a startup, Mike. Let's play this game. Would you rather, real quick, without the graphics? Okay, like when Debro was last on. If Debro, you're still with us, I'll pretend like I'm putting graphics on the screen, even though I'm not. Okay, Mike, Terry McLaurin or Chris Olave in a startup?
Probably Terry.
Terry McLaurin or DJ Moore in a startup?
Probably Terry.
Terry McLaurin or Jordan Addison in a startup?
Terry.
Terry McLaurin or DK Metcalf in a startup?
Terry.
Terry or Pickens in a startup?
Terry.
Okay, Terry or, real quickly, Emeka Egbuka, just for the contrast of player here.
Terry.
Okay, so that's everybody. Let me give you one last one. Jalen Waddle.
You can make a pretty good case for Jalen Waddle.
Okay, so there you go. So, Mike, I named, though, all those players are going after. So, realistically, maybe there's like one or two, right, that you might be thinking about potentially going instead of. If you're looking at Terry, you're looking at a receiver in that range, it's not a crazy bet, right?
You know what they all had in common?
Tell me, because
they're all wide receiver 2s on their own team.
Okay, there you go. That's what I was going to say. Waddle is the one that you could maybe project is like, all right, maybe that kind of changes. I think with Egbuka, to me, I'm interested just because I think early he's not going to be. We all know that, right? But if he starts to show towards the end of the year, by next year, you could be looking at it.
You did start with Olave, which,
he is the wide receiver one in his own team. Let's not do that, yeah.
Except for his quarterback is Tyler Shuck,
Speaking of which, going at the 13th round after Shedeur Sanders is yikes.
Just saying, you compare Tyler Shuck to Jaden Daniels, it's like comparing me to Channing Tatum, I think. I'm going to lose that one.
I don't know.
I'm going to lose that one.
I don't know. Mike, you've been losing so many LBs. I don't know if you lose that one anymore,
No, I'm losing that one. That guy's got like a 9-back, and he's got moves. I've seen his street dancing. Guy can move.
Could he be starting a Nico-type career arc this late in his career?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a little.
Yeah. It's awfully late in his career.
How about late in the show? 12-team Superflex PPR start 10. We're going to get a couple more, and we're out of here, all right? I told Mike we'll get out of here early. Start 10. I'm currently rebuilding and have 7 26 first and 2 27 first. Dude is wanting his own 26 first back from me so can do a small tank job this year and offering to give me his 27 instead.
Okay. What else?
Well,
you know what I mean?
I was waiting for you to say something so I could come over the top and say fine, but
what else?
Yeah. So if you have control of his current ability to do what he wants to do, right?
Which is potentially the 101 in 2026.
Right. And let's even say though that he could and everyone could find a way to just be a pain, not allow that to happen by making whatever needs to happen with trades, right? But Mike, if I'm going to give you the ability to drive it down, and you've already told me that that's in the when you trade for the first back from me, I already know that's the reason why you're getting it back for the most part.
Exactly.
So even before you told me, now you confirm that you tell me, I'd rather have that, and we've talked about this a couple AMAs ago. Like, I'll take a early 26 right now. Just sign me up for that. And then It's not that I won't take an early 27 or bet against his team and say I don't think he can do it that quickly. But I also give him the complete ability to control that. And then maybe what if that 27 becomes a mid first? Like, I'm not trading for a first a year out that could be mid just to give the guy his first back to tank right now. I'm not doing that.
No, I'm good. Treat it like a payday loan, man. Like, yeah, we'll give you your check early, boy. He wants
to know what more he should ask for, though.
I don't know. He's got to have like some youthful player on his team that you're like, add that on, right? Give me Caleb Johnson. Give me, I don't know, Mecca Buka. Give me Matthew Golden.
Here's the way I play this, right? I will tell you the way I would play this personally, David, is that I am playing hardball or slow ball, at least. I would say it that way, right? Where time is ticking against your 26 first right now. I'm not going to tell you what you show me how bad you want it, and then we'll start talking, right?
Either you fucking want it or you don't, man.
And if he forces your hand, tell him what you need. I'm sending something off the rip that's above asking price. Like it's reflective of this is higher than it should be, just to set the precedence. I'll come reasonably in the middle if you think it makes sense to get his 27 first. But I'm going to start with something like, I mean, gosh, Mike, if he has in the range of an Igbuka type player, like I'm going to start there, and it won't land that, but I'm going to start there and just say, hey, this is what you need to pay me to get your 26 first to become early. I'm going to ask high and set the precedence if he forces my hand. Otherwise, I'm going to see what he adds. And if he adds some bullshit, I'm just going to hold. I can hold and just say, no, you have the season coming up here before you know it. Yeah.
Don't tank then. Try to compete and then see if you still suck. I still end up with an early pick. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, you don't need to give up your position of power, man. You got it.
Jay, I mean, damn it, Jay. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you and everybody else what they should do and what you could do here. Because I hear you, Jay. But Mike has to get to work tomorrow. And I want to see you, Jay, at work. All this talk. How about you show up tomorrow? Because you're a Savage member. Savage Semester. Savage Semester is the place to be if you want to have a fun time, a good time. You want to talk some Dynasty. You want to play some Dynasty games. And you want to kick it and have fun while on the job for Mike and myself. Tomorrow, 9:30, similar to right now. You can come on Ecamm. We'll put some graphics up. We'll mess around. We'll drink. We'll have fun. Mike's still not drinking because he's losing weight so fast he can't. But I'll tell you this. We're going to have a good time, with or without you, Jay. But if you're going to call me out, I'm calling you out, man. Let's go.
Defending champ from last week.
But you guys started in the hole, and it was close, and then all of a sudden it was not close before you know it. Three up, and it was over.
When Corey started listening to me.
Yeah, speaking of which, the things started to go downhill in a kind of a hurry when they got this guy named Rip on their team. So we're hoping to get Rip back. You know?
Tanked it.
But that is all we have. We'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week for AMA. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this, what the ADPs, and also if there's something you want us to talk about next week. We love you. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace.